I mean, is this the inflection of wokery into the running of government?
I think this is the beginning of what is likely to be an absolute war zone between ministers within the Conservative Party and the civil service. And I think that this could well trigger a major review of relations between ministers and civil servants, because Dominic Raab has blown the lid. He has lifted the lid on what has clearly gone on here. Yes, he's been found to have done wrongdoing on 2 of the 24, but he says this sets a very low threshold, a very low bar for the conduct of good government. And some of his allegations against civil servants, I think, need major investigation themselves. It is quite clear from these allegations that he is accusing numerous people within the senior civil service of a deliberate campaign to undermine him as a Secretary of State, even removing some of his own officials, and that it will encourage spurious complaints. And essentially what this may lead to, if it's allowed to carry on unchecked, is that any Snowflake civil servant can make a complaint against any minister that they want to, and essentially that stops the conduct of good, accountable, demanding, challenging, performing good government on us, the taxpayer, who pays their salaries, for heaven's sake. And we don't want Snowflake civil servants to sit around doing nothing. We want them to perform, and perform quickly. And Raab has blown the lid on it.
And what we also don't want is civil servants who are politically motivated and who are going against their minister, if you like, because they don't agree with the policy. I mean, we know, for example, in the Home Office union has launched a legal action against the government over its policy about illegal migrants. So, you know, you've got an organisation for which you are supposed to be in charge basically suing you on the basis they don't like your policy.
It's quite extraordinary. He actually accuses a senior diplomat, essentially, of breaching the mandate and the trust of the ministerial task that he was set within the 3rd paragraph of this letter. And so it goes on. And he confirms that in 4.5 years, as you say, he didn't shout or swear at anybody, he didn't throw anything, and that's been confirmed by Tolly. So lots of these allegations and smears have turned out to be nothing short of complete and utter fabricated lies and nonsense. And I think this is, we're going to hear a lot about this.
I mean, effectively 10% of the claims against him have been upheld.
Less than 10%.
And as a result, he's out of a job. That doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
And of course, no one condones bullying. It's a vile trait. But what is pretty clear from this is that actually this is not what any sane, rational person with any degree of common sense would define as bullying.
But what we also don't know, Richard, is what is the definition of bullying in this report, and what are the circumstances under which he has been forced to resign?
What he's confirmed is that it sets the threshold for bullying to a new low.
But we need to know exactly what the allegation is that has made him quit, don't we?
And for sure, the report will become public either openly or through some form of leak in the very near future. I suspect if I was Dominic Raab, I would actually get the report released immediately.
I would, absolutely.
And trigger a major debate.
Yes.
Because on the one hand, a number of people have said, you know, he has a certain way of conducting himself, and there's no doubt that he is works incredibly hard and is demanding. And maybe sometimes...
Well, you'd like to think he would be.
Yes,
I mean, he's the Minister of the Crown. You want him to be demanding. You don't want him to be walking into a room full of civil servants and being intimidated and not being able to sort of press his will onto them.
And he may have said some daft things to certain people. There was something on Piers Morgan's show where I was with Gina Miller, where he clearly said something some years ago that was highly inappropriate and wrong. But nevertheless, the principle is we want our ministers to be able to drive performance on behalf of taxpayers from the civil servants. And I think this is absolutely seismic in the relationship between any minister of any political colour and the civil service.
So basically what we can only conclude at the moment is that in 2 cases of allegations against him, he was ruled to have been a bit of a bully, but in over 20 cases he was ruled not to have been a bit of a bully. So what is he? Is he a bully or is he not a bully?
Exactly, and that all the allegations about him shouting and throwing things and swearing were all dismissed.
Right.
And you might think, I mean, look, I've been in corporate meetings for decades, and you know, sometimes there's a bit of tension in the room. People are brainstorming, coming up with ideas, demanding performance. That's what happens. And occasionally voices get raised. and occasionally there's the odd swear word thrown in for good measure.
Although he says, in all the time that he was in the department, he has nothing in his report suggests that he ever swore.
And if that's what he says, and he says that's what the findings found, so that's to his credit, apparently. So I think that this is I think it's utterly extraordinary, and the allegations that there was a coercive plan and plot to remove his private secretaries, a number of them, last year. I mean, he's demanding a separate inquiry of that. I mean, these are really serious allegations by him against the civil service. This is literally the beginning of a war between government ministers and senior civil servants. And as I say before, people elect the government of the day to perform on behalf of the people, not to have to be subjected to a bunch of snowflake civil servants.
Yes, and the problem for all of us here is that we will not know until we see it exactly what these allegations are. It may be that because of all of the publicity surrounding this nonsense and because it's been going on for so many days, that Rishi Sunak had to say to him, look, you're going to have to go, otherwise it's going to get very dirty and messy and ridiculous, because they're never going to give up. But I have to say this, it seems to me that he's been got at by the blob, doesn't it?
Without question.
There's no question about that.
There's no doubt whatsoever. The blob have lied. They have leaked stuff that is completely incorrect to the media. They have deliberately undermined
which
his
has been eaten up by the Guardian, you know, very, very willingly.
And this is, look, this is. I can't recall anything quite so serious in terms of a breakdown of trust between the key elements of the way that our government functions, where you've got ministers and civil servants at war with each other. And let's remember that senior civil servants in the Home Office tried to undermine Priti Patel, and Boris Johnson actually protected her, stood by her. So it may well be that she uses this opportunity to release some other additional information.
And let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago, even though it does now seem like eons ago, that Dominic Cummings came in with a sort of a programme to completely and utterly change the way that the civil service operated. His view was that it was not efficient. His view was that it was politically motivated and that it was an obstructive force to good government.
And I've said for years, what actually should happen is that a Secretary of State should be able to bring in 10, 15 top people from the private sector to come in and run a department and, frankly, kick some backside, get some performance, get some stuff done, cut out waste. That's what the British people and taxpayers want. They want to demand performance.
Well, the basic principle now would seem to be, if you vote Tory, you won't be able to get them to continue with any kind of programme or policies because the civil service will stop it all.
That is the thing. And
you know, it's happened in the migrant case time after time.
Time after time.
It's clearly happened in the Foreign Office. It's clearly happened in the Department of Defence, you know, where they're sending around emails about, please tell us what your pronoun is, before they're actually arming the soldiers of this country.
And you saw it with the finding guilty of one of those eco-zealot protesters yesterday in court. It only took the jury 30 minutes to find the court. It's taken 18 months to get to court, even though there was no doubt about the fact that
they were banged to rights.
That she was banged to rights. Why did it take 18 months? It's going to take the judge another 6 weeks to rule a sentence. If I was the judge, I could have made the sentence there and then. You don't need any. You don't need another 6 weeks. And why did it take 18 months?
But they're not going to be locked up. They're just going to be charged with, you know, the costs of the court case.
But these are more and more examples of a civil service in various departments that is utterly incapable of delivering for the British people, and it needs wholesale reform.